The best thing for the Eagles last week after losing in Oakland, the Philadelphia Phillies. Too bad nothing has been able to save the Washington Redskins. Jason Horowitz, NFL.com's Pat Kirwan. Glad to be with you here on the NFL Preview Show presented by Tyson Anytizers. And Pat, you know, you can start with either of these teams because last week was miserable for both. But let's start with Washington because they've stripped the play calling duties from Jim Zorn. Sherman Lewis, who we talked about 3 weeks ago when they brought him in as a consultant. You said it right here. That's what's going to happen. Does that necessarily change anything production-wise for Washington?
I think it puts them at more risk. And, you know, if you don't like Jim Zorn, fire the guy. Don't put him through this misery. Don't embarrass him. It's really not very nice what's going on there. And I've talked to a number of players that remain off the record, if you will, and they love Jim Zorn. And they go, Jim gives it to us straight. Jim tells us what's going on. We feel bad for him. We're playing for Jim. But they also kind of feel like if they lose this game, he's going to get fired. Yeah. And Sherm has so much rust on him. He hasn't called plays. He was running a bingo hall in Detroit. So that's who they bring in. He doesn't really know the system. Who are the players talking to during series adjustments? What are they going to do? You're not allowed to talk to Jim? I think they even changed Jim's ability to shuttle the play in. So what's going to happen on the sideline? I think it's going to be a mess for Washington.
It could get ugly. Sherman Lewis last was involved with an NFL team before
B9.
2004.
D2.
Yeah, there's no D2. It would be B2 or I-19. Speaking of I-19, how about the Eagles? I don't know how that's speaking of I-19.
Sure, I got you.
How about the Eagles here, Pat? Because they were just as bad last week.
Well, that was an embarrassing loss, but they've had these kind of games before. What happens to the Eagles on occasion is they tilt themselves to a full-blown passing attack, forget the running game. You go back and look at what Westbrook did running the ball. They're going to remind themselves this Marty Morningwig, the offensive coordinator, will have a bigger influence this week. They will balance up this offense. Yeah. They will run the ball against the Redskins. And then stop taking practice time for the Michael Vick Wildcat unless you're going to use it, because they're not using it.
Yeah.
So you have such limited time in practice. Either develop it and use it, or forget about it. But get going here and balance up this offense.
54 pass attempts last week. 12 running plays that were called last week.
If they do that this week, this game is going to be over at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Well, that ain't good. But you know the thing about Washington is that as bad as they've been, and as much as they've taken this year, the defense is still pretty good.
I like the front seven of this defense. I don't trust the back four. They got a lot of talkers back there and a lot of guys with big reputations that don't produce. So there are going to be some nice throwing lanes. And then, look, the Eagles aren't going to come out and not throw the ball. They're going to throw the ball 25 to 30 times, and they're going to have a field day against some of those defensive backs.
What about Jason Campbell? Because back to the Washington offense here. They're keeping him as the starter. Does he have any hope to succeed this week?
Jason's in a very bad situation. Yeah. We know all about the multiple systems, the pressure on his shoulders, now the cutoff of communication with Jim Zorn, whether that was good or bad. I think the kid's floating on his own here. You want to know what I think they should do? I think they should sign Jeff Garcia and get a stable guy in here that can come in, knows the West Coast offense inside out, and relieve Jason every time he struggles with Jeff Garcia. That would help this football team. They haven't done much right this year. I don't think they're going to do that either.
Relieved him with Todd Collins last week. He went 6 of 14 for 75 yards, and they scored just 6 points. Oh, by the way, in their 3 home games, 2 of them they had failed to score a touchdown.
Have they beaten anybody that had a win?
Well, no, they haven't played anybody that had a win. That was the problem.
Go.
So there you go. So that's what you've done. The Rams, they have a win against the Rams, and they've lost to the Lions, lost to the Chiefs. It's been a bad year for Washington. That's an understatement. Eagles win?
I think the Eagles win.
Any chance
big.
the Redskins gather it up here?
No. What was it, B2? He'll be back calling bingo in a while. No. Big win for the Eagles.
I-17, Jason Campbell. For more on this game, it's Monday night, 8:30. Be sure to stay right here with CBSSports.com. That'll do it for the NFL Preview Show presented by Tyson Anytizers, the meaty good man snack. I knew we'd be able to figure it out somehow. For Pat Kirwan, I'm Jason Horowitz. Take care, folks.